Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Story Darlings podcast. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Tera.
And welcome back to season 2, episode 4. What are we talking about today, Tera?
We are talking about the second half of Crown of Midnight. If you listened to the last episode, I was hoping for a bloodbath and hellfire and all of that, and I am not wearing my murder shirt, so there was not as much of that as I'd hoped. But we will get into what there was, because there was something else.
So, first part of Crown of Midnight left us on quite the cliffhanger, with Celaena coming upon Nehemia's broken, cut up, mutilated body, blood everywhere, dead guards everywhere, and Dorian and Chaol come into the room after her. And what happens? Like, what is Celaena's reaction to Chaol?
Oh, girl is pissed. Girl is pissed because she blames Chaol for Nehemia dying. And so she attacks him and she is about to murder him, about to just dead Chaol. And Dorian stops her using his magic.
Ooh, his magic fingers, his magic hands.
I didn't want to say that, but now Sandra is the one that's got the quote this time of Dorian's magic fingers, not me.
If you're in Celaena's shoes, yeah, you're going to blame Cole, and yeah, you're going to want him dead. So she goes straight up feral on him, claws the shit out of his face to the point where it's going to leave a scar, and would have killed him. Like, the dagger would have plunged through his chest if it had not been for Dorian. So I think that's like an important thing to keep in mind here, is that she had every intention of killing him, and it was only Dorian that stopped her, because she was going to do it. She acts out. There's tons of witnesses. So her ass gets thrown into the dungeons right next to Kaltain Rompier. And Kaltain, let me tell you, is still not looking too hot.
And she's a little bitter about everything that's happening because she warns Celaena about like how they've been treating her and that like, hey, the food is poisoned or the food is like, it's got sedatives in it. And Celaena's like, hey, I want to go to sleep anyway, so that's good with me. And so she intentionally eats, I don't want to say poison because it's not necessarily a poison, but then like...
No, it's just drugged.
Messed with, drugged, yes, that's the word I was looking for. Food, which is funny, but Kaltain's trying to warn her. She's like, hey, they're bad people.
Yeah, she's like, oh, so they got tired of you too, huh? This is kind of like, told you so. But Kaltain is still very much fragmented, not making a lot of sense. She still has terrible headaches, still going on about wings flapping, but she does disclose to Celaena that she will be going with Duke Parrington to his hometown place of Moroth in like 5 days. And Duke Parrington plans on marrying her, which is very, like, what?
Skeevy. But she also mentions that she knows that they're wanting to use her for something more. So they weren't done with her and that there's something that she's going to be a part of later. We do have that little glimmer of foreshadowing.
It's going to be so, so good. So Celaena spends days and days and days in the dungeons where she's just happily ingesting these drugs so that she can stay unconscious and not remember everything terrible that happened in Nehemia's death. And finally, like a week later, while she is still drugged out, Chaol and the guards like carry her up to her rooms, basically, which is where she wakes up and comes to. And on top of being numb and angry at everything, before she even really mourns Nehemia, because up until this point, she has just been numbing herself. You know, I don't want to be awake. I'm just numbing myself. So she hasn't even grieved Nehemia. Now her priority is to go and commit revenge. Like, she is going on a mission. She sneaks out of the castle grounds, goes deep into Rifthold, and visits her old stomping grounds, this very seedy place where all the assassins and murders and that type are called the vaults. So she goes there asking questions. And it was over this time of being locked away and just thinking about everything that has happened. What realization does she come to?
So she realizes that she knows who murdered Nehemia because she has seen that kind of savagery before. And so she realizes that she, in fact, does know who committed the act. And it is a person that we have come to hate through this series because the fucker attacked Nox. So he is just out there attacking good, honest people and people that we like. Boo hiss. And so it is Grave who committed this act. So she goes, and one of the only pieces of the murder mayhem that I was looking for of her attacking the people that killed Nehemia, and she kills him. She gets some information about who hired him to do the killing, and she murders him.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite scenes in the second half because she basically is like cloak up, very much shadows and daggers type, swaggers into this place, walks up to the bar and just starts asking questions about where the man Graves is. Gets his attention because we do briefly get his POV and he's like freaking out and losing his shit and like runs out of the bar away. And she hunts his ass down and starts torturing him for questions, just like starts stabbing him in the thigh. And it is, I mean, I
My
shouldn't like,
sadism came out there
yeah.
because I'm like, yeah, you go.
I'm like, should we condone violence? But it's like he really deserved it and was a sick piece of shit. So she tortures him, gets what she wants, and then brings his head and throws it onto the ground in front of the king in the middle of a council meeting with Chaol in attendance, Dorian, Roland is there, Parrington, like all of these people are there, and she just like dumps the head and she just looks so cold-blooded, like killer, and it's amazing.
One of the things about the murder of Grave that got me is at first he was still thinking he was going to beat her somehow. Like in his POV, he's like, oh yeah, I can take her. She's dumb. She's whatever. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to survive this. Like, run. Run as fast as you can. That's your only salvation. But he's just like arrogant and like, I can still beat her. Like, she's dumb.
He was a total shit for brains and just had like a very nasty, disgusting kind of murder streak to him. So he gets his just desserts, which is always great in our book. So after the scene in delivering the head to the king is quite pleased with that, which doesn't make any sense because it was council member Mollison who Graves said hired him to kill Princess Nehemia. So the king should be pissed that all of this turmoil is happening now and they are looking at possible war and all of this stuff because of this princess dying. But he seems very happy about it. Slightly, not so slightly. So, after all of this, after Celaena has taken some revenge, she then starts going through Nehemia's belongings. Like, she's finally facing that grief a little bit. And so, she's going through Nehemia's belongings. She finds pieces that they have seen before at the Davis estate when she snuck in to do some recon there. And Nehemia had totally, like, glossed over something. And so, she comes across something and is just like, what the hell? Nehemia was hiding this from me. And it is a big piece of the puzzle, which points to the word marks again in the secret part of the castle. So she goes to the castle to try and figure it out, and she realizes that the eye is really like the sword Damaris. It's in the pommel of it. There's an eye. And so she looks through that and it reveals like all of this other stuff that is still a big riddle, and she has no idea what any of it means. So after that stumps her, she's going to continue looking into it. Then she decides to grieve Nehemia. And this is a really kind of touching emotional scene because she goes out there at dark. It's just Nehemia's grave. It's not even in her homeland. And she is lamenting and singing this old dirge that Chaol happens upon her doing and is just like, what the fuck? She's not speaking the common tongue. This is definitely not Eelway. This is no language I have heard of. And so he is just automatically suspicious of her. And they have like a very cold, brief exchange where she basically just ignores him. He like tries to talk to her when she is like going through this. And any thoughts about that scene?
I don't know that I can blame her because she still has a lot of resentment for him and the choices he made. And she wanted time to grieve her friend that he obviously didn't hold in the same esteem that she did. And so, like, I'm with her. Like, leave me alone. Let me do my lament. But I also, the like little hey, that's important person in my brain was like, ooh, he's caught on to something because it was a different language and it was not a language that he'd ever heard. And so that sends Chaol on this like mission to discover what is going on. And I still get the sense that his loyalty lies with the king, even after all of this. So when he goes to research what this is, in the back of his mind, he's still thinking like, I'm going to catch her doing something she's not supposed to be doing, and not, I want to learn this so that I can help her. It was still like, I'm going to catch her. And that really irked me because I'm like, you just made a serious, serious mistake by not trusting her and showing blind loyalty to this douchebag. I'm with her. I think that she's fine giving him the cold shoulder.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was really unfortunate. You just got the sense that he was still just doing all this spy work and keeping tabs on her, like treating her like the enemy for the king. And it's just like, really, dude, if you loved her so much and had like such grand plans for your future together, how can you still be thinking about her in this way? You know what I mean? It's just,
Hmm.
yeah, it was so disappointing for him from a character growth perspective.
How deep was your love if you still like have such negative thoughts about her? It was very shallow in my impression at that point.
So, I mean, Celaena, she's just on her own mission right now to try and figure out what Nehemia knew. And so she goes to the library to try and get answers. She runs into Dorian, who's at the library trying to get answers about why the fuck he has the powers and abilities that he has manifesting. So they start talking again, and it's kind of heartwarming to see them just become friends again. Like, not really make up or anything, but they just make nice and they're talking again, which means so much. And then, of course, Chaol walks in on them talking and chit chatting in the library, and he's still being Chaol and jealous and weird about it. And so he just distanced himself and goes to like the opposite ends of the library to do his own research into this song or language or whatever that he, observed Celaena singing at Nehemia's grave.
But that scene was also really funny because the dog, Fleetfoot, was running around causing havoc too. And so the librarian was like losing his shit because this dog is like stealing parchments and whatever. And Kale walks in and he knows it's this dog that the librarian is so mad at. And the librarian wants the person who let the dog in to like pay. And Kale's like, yeah, sure, old dude, I gotcha. And he does absolutely jack crap about it. But it was pretty funny. The dog's running around the library just wreaking havoc.
Fleetfoot was one of the best parts of the second half, just for like the comic relief, because there's so much shit happening in tragedy. Shocker, Celaena doesn't figure out what she needs to know about Nehemia at this point, so she resorts to paying Baba Yellowlegs a visit, which is like a crazy scene because they're packing up. Like the carnival that Baba Yellowlegs is a part of is packing up. They're about to leave and go to the next town. And so this is her opportunity. It's now or never. So she goes in there and she is negotiating how much to pay Baba Yellowlegs to answer her questions. And Baba is basically like, pay me this much and I'll tell you what the Prince Dorian asked me. And Celaena's just like, what the fuck? This is the crown prince. Like, he is going through his own weird shit right now. How dare you even introduce the idea of selling this information? Like, in Celaena's mind, Baba Yellowlegs has probably already done this. And so the way that Celaena goes about this situation, it again goes back to she is like cold. There's like no second guessing herself. She just acts. And if you are someone that she cares about, she goes to bat for you in full. And she does. After she gets some information out of Baba Yellowlegs about the word marks and word gates, and learns that there are these things that can control, opening doors to other worlds and stuff like that, she gets the sense that there's going to be some violence going down between the two of them. And they go into this freaky place. Like, the inside of the cart is not what it seems from the outside. So that's already like a weird ass magical scene. But you want to explain a little bit about what happens in there?
I got the sense that Baba was kind of like, I don't know, the witch from Hansel and Gretel, where she's like
Yes.
eating the children. And so there were like bones in this creepy little like place of mirrors and whatnot. And so Selena in the back of her mind, or Selena in the back of her mind is like, hey, this isn't right. I need to like put my game face on. And so Selena ends up killing Baba and escaping. And she knows that she has to hide this. Nobody can find the body because then all the witches are going to be in an uproar and everything. And so she hides the body and mirrors are broken. So it's kind of obvious that something went down, but not obvious who or what really happened. So she hides the body and then hightails it out of there.
Celaena is just like cutthroat about this. I mean, it ends the chapter not being like really explicit with what she does, but basically is like, oh, Celaena sees like the stove oven thing and is like, okay, so apparently she like took this witch's body after like chopping her head off and just like got rid of her body like that way. It's so like dark and grim.
She cremated her. It was a nice, pleasant way to like get rid of the body here.
Yeah, witch, like equivalent of a queen, right? Because she's this half a millennium old witch. It's like all of these little new creatures and factions are getting dropped here and there, and it's just really interesting to learn more about the world and the different creatures and stuff that live in it. But yeah, so that was like one of the most unsettling. I freaking hate carnivals. They're so weird anyways, but like a house of mirrors being like a battle to the death type of thing, one-on-one, I'm just like, and I'm gonna die. No. Tara's about to be like, I would kick ass all day.
No, I'm just happy she killed her because like the witch was creepy.
She was creepy. She was not good news. I'm like, how is this legal for this woman to be just out doing all this stuff and taking advantage of people like this? So dark. But yeah, definitely had that dark fairy tale vibe to it. And so meanwhile, it's like after this, Chaol being Chaol, working for the Empire, serving his master, he goes to Celaena's room. Celaena's not there. So he just helps himself and goes in and is just like, I'm like, what the fuck? So he's just like going through all her stuff and he happens upon a document. And what is this document?
It is Celaena's will that she wrote a couple days before Nehemiah's death, and it leaves every fucking penny of her money and assets, which are a lot at this point because it details that like there's another house and like all the stuff in the house and whatever. And she leaves it to the douche that doesn't like think highly of her at all, Chaol, because she was totally in. She was 100% in, and as Sandra mentioned earlier, if she loves you, if you're a part of her inner circle, like she's gonna go to hell and back to make sure you're okay. And she does. She leaves it all to him. And there's a scene later, and I'm just going to go to it right now because it gets me, but where Kel brings it up to Celaena, or she walks in and she sees him looking at it. And she's like, I'm not going to change it. It's all yours. And in his mind, he's like, so this is the point where it like clicks in his dumbass, like thickest, like, I don't know, whatever.
Cro-Magnon skull.
Yes. That she is actually there for good reasons and that she isn't planning on doing anything, because in his brain he's like, well, she wouldn't have any of the stuff if she was about to commit treason, and so she wouldn't have left it to me because it wouldn't have existed. And so he's like, so that means that she's like not about to commit treason and she wasn't planning on it. And I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. No, she's not. She has never been. She has been just trying to survive and to keep the people she loved alive, and you did the opposite. I'm not feisty about this.
I love it so much. Anyhow, so she kicks his ass out of her rooms and he
Rightfully
just
so.
Yes, rightfully so. And he just like starts crying. I think he just like walks away sobbing because he knows what a fuck up he is. And her next step is taking this information that she has learned from the now deceased Baba Yellowlegs and poking around, figuring out more about these secret places in the grounds.
I'm sorry, I cannot take her seriously with the name Baba Yellowlegs. I've just got to throw that out there. Like every time you say that, I want to like start laughing, and I know that she's not the character that you like laugh at because she's like this really creepy witch person. But seriously, she does not have a good last name.
I don't have this problem, but I've heard names like this before and like I don't want to say like Brothers Grimm type of thing, but like some other story.
It is very common to like give that kind of a name and like for witches to have something like that. I can't.
Tara's not intimidated by her at all because of the name. So, anywho, Celaena goes nosing around and puts some information together that she learned from Baba and discovers another hidden passageway. And she explores down it, ends up being like a weird ancient dungeon that may have belonged to the old King Gavin, but there are just corridors and cells and it just goes on and on. And so I forget what level she's on at this point, but she comes to a room that immediately starts making her head pulse. She feels very disoriented and alarmed and like something is there with her. And she finds out that she is inside of the fucking clock tower, you know, in the courtyard, the thing that she kept getting her face smashed into during the champion duel with Kane, and was seeing all of these like creatures and stuff, you know, when she was high off this poison. So she discovers she's in this clock tower, that it's giving her weird physical, like bodily effects that aren't good. So she realizes she's not alone and hightails her ass out of there. And what happens?
Something comes with her. She is being chased by a creature, which we don't know much about, but she gets the sense as she's making it through this dungeon, she sees this room that has clearly been clawed out of by something. And she's like, what the hell was kept in there? And then we get a little bit more descriptions of this creature and how it was a very human like, and we get a POV from the creature a little bit about like its life and like the people keeping it there and all of this stuff. And so it used to be human and it was locked in this dungeon place near this tower. And now it's chasing Celaena. And so she is running because it's creepy as fuck. And Dorian meets her, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he hears her screaming. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, "What's going on?" And then he sees the creature, and Selena's trying to slam this like iron door, and Dorian's trying to help her, and the creature's got a hold of her shoulder, and Dorian then takes the sword and chops the little creature's hand off, so that now it's just like, what is the thing from Wednesday? The little hand. What's its name?
Thing.
Thing. Yes. So it's just like a hold of her like shoulder, like, and she's trying to slam this door, and it's not comical, but my description's apparently very comical because Sandra's laughing. But this
Tara should
thing,
tell stories all the time.
this thing has a hold of her shoulder. They're trying to slam the door, and then Dorian is trying to use his magic to help her shut the door. And at some point, she's like, "It's not gonna work. Stop." And then she tells him to go get the book, The Walking Dead. And he's like, "Well, how do I find it?" And she's like, "It'll find you. Don't worry." And so he's like, okay, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I'm gonna listen to her. And so he goes trotting up and like goes to find this book in the library, and it does appear to him, and he brings it down, and she starts making word marks on the door and ends up getting it closed. And in doing so, Dorian discovers that she has magic, and she discovers that Dorian has magic. Two different types of magic, but still a secret that they both have.
And the walls break down further between them. Yes. She ends up like fucking decapitating it, right? It's like her
Yeah,
second
yeah.
one. Second one in part 2 of Crown of Midnight.
Yeah, because she does the word marks to like stun him ish
Yeah, it like
in
holds
place, and
him.
then she like chops his head off, and so the head rolls, but the body is still stunned. And so it's a very creepy scene because then she like lets it go, and then the body falls over, and then they lock the door.
It's such an interesting scene because of getting its POV, and we get the sense that the king had captured this poor person, and they probably had some kind of magic running in their bloodline from what Celaena has been learning from Baba and from research and everything with Nehemia's stuff. And the king is not at all innocent in any of this. He has been behind these things, just running these experiments, doing God knows what, and creating these monstrosities out of these poor people. And it's sad when the thing finally dies because it's almost like a sense of relief, I think, is how it comes across on the page. Like it's finally like, okay, I can rest now after all this fucked up shit happened to me.
And you get the sense, or I got the sense, that, like, because we'd heard Kaltain's headaches were getting worse and Roland's headaches were getting worse the whole time. And in my head, I was thinking, wait, they just trapped Kaltain in a dungeon and she got worse. And this thing was trapped in a dungeon. And clearly it got worse because it turned from human to a creature. So, like, is Kaltain on this, like, path of turning creature.
It's like, okay, if she indeed is going to Morath to marry the Duke and greet whatever the fuck thing is waiting for her, it's like, what does all of this mean? What could possibly be happening with her?
But then we do find out.
Yeah, on the topic of Kaltain, Celaena rushes back to her cell. No Kaltain, gone. So she's just like, what the hell? Okay, whatever plans were, in the works, they're on the fast track now. I need to figure this out fast to put in stop to all of this.
And Selaina doesn't figure it out, but isn't it Chaol in his, like, path of discovery of, like, or no, it was Dorian in his path of, like, genealogy that discovers that there was a Rompier magical line.
Mhm.
And so then it gives us a clue as to why they are using Kaltain, because her family history or family lineage had a history of having magic in it before the 10 years ago when
Yes.
magic disappeared.
Yep, and same with Cain. There was something because he's from the White Fang Mountains. It was like the same with his bloodline too. At some point, however many centuries passed, like magic ran in their bloodlines.
And Kale is researching the royal history of Terasan because he knows that she is from Terasan. And when he heard the dirge, he was like, wait, I'm going to research this. So he asked the librarian, and the librarian told him that the royals at that time had a kind of tradition of holding dirges for other royal members, like aristocrat members, like the noble families.
And not just regular nobles, like high court.
And so they held dirges or held like little whatever and sang dirges of Fey origin. So that would explain the language that he has never heard of before. And so he goes on this mission to discover, could she potentially be a member of a highborn noble family that happened to be murdered 10 years ago? So he is researching all of the lineages of the highborn court of Terasan.
And this goes back to Tara's comment earlier about being frustrated with Chaol, but it's like he's realizing all this and like putting these puzzle pieces together that Celaena is probably tied to the high nobility of the old Fae court. And then he's just like, oh, if this is true, then she is the enemy of Otterland type of thing. Like his mind just goes there,
Well,
like
and he goes back to the what she said to him when she was attacking him right after Nehemia died. She said, "You will always be my enemy." And so he's like, "Wait, if she is a highborn royal or highborn whatever noble family, then I am always her enemy because we destroyed them. My country destroyed them, and we clearly still don't like that country."
yeah.
And so he keeps going back to that, and not in the way that you would hope of somebody who loves somebody else, in that, oh, I'm going to protect you because my country did this to you and it was horrible. But in a way of, oh, I've got to protect my country from you because clearly you are a danger to it.
Yeah, you're trying to bring down the empire. He has all these hunches about her being Fae, but it isn't confirmed until she ventures into opening a door to see Nehemia.
Mhm.
In Celaena's mind, she's like, okay, I have access to this book. I can figure out how to try and summon Nehemia's spirit, basically to talk to her and find out more. And I miss her. She's my friend. I can't let her go type of thing. So she does what she is not supposed to do. And she opens a portal, not really knowing what the repercussions of that is. And Nehemia shows up and is basically like, what are you doing? Never do this again. It will not be me who greets you next time. Meanwhile, Dorian is having a clairvoyant dream and basically is told, go to fucking Celaena because she's doing something she's not supposed to be doing. So he races after her. And Celaena has Fleetfoot with her, right? Because Fleetfoot was very bonded with Nehemia. Nehemia spent probably more time with that dog than Celaena did. And so Fleetfoot is with her when she is talking with Nehemia. So then what happens?
Well, let's first get back to Dorian's clairvoyant vision, because who did he see in that vision? None other than Elena's husband, Gavin. And so Gavin sends him on his way, but Dorian, being a dumbass, like most of the men so far in this series, doesn't go to Celaena first. He goes to Chaol and takes his dear sweet time going and getting Chaol and be like, hey, Celena's like doing something she's not supposed to. She's in danger. Oh my God. Let's go save her. And then they both trek down to go save her. And she accidentally opens the portal a second time. And that's bad news bears for everybody involved because something comes out of that door that is not there for nice reasons.
And Fleetfoot knows it.
Yes, it attacks. And Fleetfoot, poor little puppy, gets it. Like, it hurts Fleetfoot. And I'm like, no, not the dog. The dog is innocent. Leave the doggy alone. Right? And so they're all like trying to fight this creature and get it back in its thing, and also trying to figure out how to close the thing before more creatures come out. And so they're all doing their own little thing. And Chaol sends Dorian, like, tells Dorian to take Celaena out. And Chaol then like is fighting the thing, and Celaena sees the creature dragged Fleetfoot, and Chaol goes in to get Fleetfoot into the other world through this portal, right? And so Celaena being Celaena, she's like, bam, pushes like Dorian's head into the wall, and he passes out. And then she goes and she runs and gets in there. And something happens to her when she breaks that portal door, and she changes. And she changes to a fae. So we finally figure out that there's more to Celaena's power and her, and she's a fae. And she had previously told Chaol that her great grandmother was a fae. And so kind of that is supposed to explain how she's fae. But anyway, so she takes on this monster. She gets Chaol and the doggy out, which is good. Like, Chaol could have stayed, but like the doggy's good. Save the dog. And then she starts fighting this creature. And in this battle, she like jams that knife in the ground, and like the ground started splitting open, and
Fire.
fire. And yeah, she uses fire through the sword too, because Damaris conducts magic, which is also kind of awesome. But so she's like fighting this monster with her fire magic and all of that, and she wasn't winning, and she heard more coming, and so she like just jams that sword into the ground, and the ground starts splitting open, and the creatures are on one side of the split and she's on the other. And so she then just like goes back through the portal, and Dorian and Chaol are like, what the fuck just happened to the rest of that world? It used to be huge and there used to be creatures, and now it's just like this sliver of dirt. And then they figure out how to close it. And Celaena at this time, she is wore the fuck out, right? So she's like, I can't close it. I can't close it. I don't know how. I don't have the strength. And she's like, Dorian, I can use your blood. And again, Chaol's a dumbass because he's like, oh no, she's gonna kill him. She's gonna slit his throat, and like, oh my god. But she's like, don't worry, I just need a little bit. And so she like cuts his little like a little thing and uses his blood and draws her little word marks and gets it to close.
It was probably the most exhilarating part of the book, just seeing her literally transform out of her human body, and then her canines elongating, her skin taking on this ashen, like gray kind of pallor, her hair turning silver, her ears turning pointed. I mean, she is straight like creature. She growls, snarls. Like, it gave me chills like reading her scene, just what she was doing. So it's like all the little breadcrumbs that have been sprinkled throughout the story to this point, from the opening scene with Oswald Forest, with the little people leaving the flowers for her, and the forest being so connected to her. It is because she's fae. Oh, we haven't even mentioned Archer. So Archer sees all this go down, but there's this huge realization that comes with Archer, and that we find out that Nehemia had left the rebellion because Archer and her had a very foundational disagreement about how to proceed with this knowledge of the word marks and this power. Archer wanted to wield that power, which it never goes well with people who want to wield this kind of power, and opening portals and ruling armies that aren't human and all this shit.
That's how we got to where we fucking are right now, is some
Yes.
dude wanted to rule and use the power. Like,
Yes.
which we do discover the king has at least one of the word keys that
At
she
least
is
one.
looking for, and that's how he has the power that he has. And that is what Archer's wanting to do, is to find all three of them and use all three of them. So if you can imagine, like, the king has at least one that we know of, and he has this much power. If he had all three of them, he'd have the power to destroy the whole world, not just the continent.
And not even just that world, like all of the worlds. Like just fuck everything up for everyone ever.
Which is always a good thing
It's
to
always a
give
good
somebody
thing.
that much
But
power.
yeah. It's also disclosed that the king came upon that word key or whatever you want to call it when he was younger. Like he has had this forever.
That took me back to, like, I am thinking that these missions that the king is going on, that, like, he comes back with nobody, that he's went on at least 2 that we know of, is to find the word keys. So, if he went on one 10 or so years ago, that's when he found the first one. Did he find another key?
Well, the first one was in the tomb of Elena, like in her crown.
But did he find keys when he went on these missions?
Yeah, that's the question, right?
So Celaena, going back to Archer, so she is quite pissed off. And Archer, when they're battling this creature, hightails it. He's like, oh, nope. I'm so brave up until the point that I have to face any adversity whatsoever. And then I'm just going to run.
With the book.
The Walking Dead. Yeah. And so he ran, and Selena's like, don't worry. These passages are like a labyrinth. He ain't getting out of here. It's fine. And so she fights and she wins and whatever. And then she sends kind of Dorian and Chaol away, or she like just goes away from them when everything's over. And she goes to find Archer. And that scene was so great because she started out attacking him and he's like, oh, you're not going to kill me. You're not going to kill me, blah, blah, blah. And then he figures out that she likely is going to kill him if he doesn't shut his fucking trap. So she attacks him. And then she gets to the point where she's like, you know what? No, I'll let you go. But you and your men had better leave like tonight. And if I see you again, I will kill you. And he responded with, I knew you were a good woman. And that just lit a fire in Celaena. And she's like, I am not a fucking good woman. But Nehemia was. And then she murders Archer. She later gives Archer's head to the king to prove that she had murdered him, which is lovely, kind of just like, she was going to let you go. She was going to be the good person. She was going to like be the best Celaena she could be. And then you had to remind her what you did. And she didn't need a whole lot of like convincing that you deserve to die because you're a horrible, horrible person.
Well, he just did it in such a patronizing way, too. Like,
Yeah.
oh, good woman, just stay in your lane and work with me here. She's like, fuck you, you're dead.
Yeah.
I was like
Yeah.
so happy. I was like cheering. When it's revealed that Archer was the one that was behind it, I was just like, oh, why? Why does it have to be like literally every guy being an accomplice in some way?
Yeah, or every guy just like ruining. This is why I don't like to ship people, or I didn't want to ship people, because like every single fucking guy in this story so far, which I've already had like an octagon for Celaena. It wasn't a love triangle. Like I wanted her with every single guy at some point. But they've all just been such letdowns. Such letdowns. Like Dorian was just a womanizer. Chaol never believed her. I guess Knox hasn't been a letdown. He was still like, I guess I can still ship him with her, but he's now gone, so probably not going to happen in the future. And then Archer, and I'm just like, why do you all have to be such idiots?
I know.
So she goes, and Chaol and Dorian are in her room, or I don't remember whose room, but a room. Might have been Dorian's room. But they're in the room trying to change and like get clean because they're gross and bloody and yeah. And Chaol is kind of wondering what the fuck is going on because he didn't know that anybody had magic. And he's also, for some reason, trying to keep the fact that she is a fae away from Dorian. And so Celaena tells Dorian, like, go to your room. I will come see you after I'm done talking to Chaol. And Dorian's like, oh man, he gets to go first, kind of a thing. And just like sullenly walks to his room. And so she explains a little bit to Chaol of what's going on, and that yes, I am a fae. My great grandmother was a fae. When my parents got murdered and magic disappeared, I lost the ability to turn. And so she explained a little bit, but she didn't explain about Dorian's magic, and she kind of just like left it at that. And that makes Chaol a little bit more like, hey, what's going on? I'm researching this genealogy, like something's going on here. And so she goes to talk to Dorian and kind of have that out about his magic and her magic and, whatever. And in the background, Chaol, being the dumbass that he is like, oh, I'll fix it. He's like, she can't stay here anymore because if she is Fae, she is what the king hates the most. And if anybody ever finds that out, she is going to die.
Yeah, she's in danger.
And so he's like, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it. And so he comes up with this plan to send her to, I don't know how to pronounce it,
Wendlin.
Wendlin, and have her kill the ruler and heir to the throne of this country because it's the last holdout of the Fae. And so he's like, well, we'll send her there because that's going to be the most protection for her. And so he goes to his dad and he's like, hey, dad, like, I have this plan. I really need you to stand behind me with it with the council because I'm going to bring it up and I need you to go along with me. And so his dad's like, well, what the hell am I going to get out of it? And he's like, I will go home. I will be the heir to.
Ramiel.
Yeah. And so the dad's like, okay, bet. And so they have this council meeting and he brings up this and Dorian's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? And the king's like, oh, my son doesn't like this. This is probably a good move on my part to do this because it will get him away from her and likely will get me into this stronghold of the Fae and wipe them out. And he didn't see any downsides, right? And so he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And Chaol also had the support of his dad and his dad's allies and whatnot. So they say, or the king says, hey, call my champion. And he tells her. And she's like, what the fuck are you doing? I don't want to leave you. And I can't go there and never come back because then they will kill you and Nehemiah's family. But Chaol doesn't know any of this. And so she's just a little bit pissed off. She's like, stop butting in, dude. Like, I
Yeah.
got it. Leave me the hell alone. Like, leave me alone. But that's the first time you do see him thinking about her not as the enemy, but as somebody who needs saving. So I'm kind of torn on that because I like that he's now thinking of her as not the fucking enemy the whole time, even though her actions are the opposite, but also, butt the hell out. Like, you're basically acting like she is not able to protect herself. Like, she has proven time and time again that she has got it.
Yeah, Celaena has taken care of herself since she was 8, so I think she's got this. So it's precious of you to offer to try and save her. But Chaol, bless his puny little heart, he thinks he's doing her a favor by, coming up with his grand plan to save her. But a lot of this stuff, too, is frustrating because obviously Celaena still didn't trust Chaol even when she was, in love with him and, sleeping with him and, inseparable. Because she still didn't tell Chaol that, hey, the king threatened me with your life, your family's life, Nehemiah's family's life, if I were to disappear from a job, and tried running away, that there would be that to pay. Because it could have solved some of this if she would have just been forthcoming with that. But some part of her didn't trust him either. And for a good reason, if he was still
Well,
withholding information and doing things for the good of Empire.
I didn't take that so much as she didn't trust him. I took it as why add to his stress? Because what's it going to do if I tell you you're going to die if I never come back?
I mean, one, he won't make stupid decisions without, put all this stuff in motion. Yeah.
I'm there with that, but I don't know for a fact that it wouldn't still he wouldn't make stupid decisions because he has not made very many smart decisions so far. So I'm not going to put that all on her and not telling him. But I think her mindset is, how's it going to solve anything if he knows that if I die on one of these missions and I don't come back, he's going to die too. He's already stressed that I'm going on these missions. In her brain, she thought, he loves me. He's already going to be stressed that I'm going there and worried about my safety. And then if you just add the fact that he's now also have to worry about his safety because if I don't come back, he's dead too.
With Celaena now going to Wendlin, and who knows when she'll see Chaol again and Dorian again. Dorian's still grappling with whatever the hell his powers are going to manifest and totally be when it's all said and done. And then there's the question of the cousin Roland, because we know he's had a ring and he is with Duke Barrington in Moreth now with Kaltain and company. And So the whole reason why Chaol is talking to his dad and his dad is even at court away from their hometown of Aniel is home to basically a concentration camp, another one like Endovir, which is Calcola. And so the Calcola mines are there as well. And so we even got a cutscene earlier that had like a little slave girl who hadn't received news. Like she had hope, right? She was living and working day in, day out, had outlasted her family and people that she loved with this hope that Nehemia was going to free them. And when word of Nehemia's assassination hits this death camp, the girl loses hope and decides, fuck it, attacks her overseer. It adds her name to the list of her dead, and that's like the end of cutscene is the overseer killing the girl. And so it's a nice, not nice is the wrong word, but it's a scene that just shows you the whole scope of this, of like how Nehemia's death has rippled across all of this, like all of these innocents whose lives are at stake. And so with this death camp being in Chaol's family's homeland, like that region, Chaol's father has a lot at stake too with kind of managing any uprising and stuff that happens. So that's why he's at court. And he is obviously wanting to increase labor and that kind of thing too. Like he has an interest in doing that from a financial standpoint. But he's just such a slimy guy. Like I fucking hate his dad because his dad had disowned him, was like, never ever come home. Don't talk to us ever again. We were going to do nothing for you. And then as soon as Chaol becomes BFFs with Prince Dorian, he's like, oh, now you can elevate our family. So what are you going to do for us thing? And it's so just so selfish and gross. And I hate them all. I hate the fathers in this so much. Just
And then the next scene where she's getting ready to leave, and it's a super sweet moment with her and Dorian because he comes to say goodbye. And he's like, wait, you were going to leave without saying goodbye to me? And she's like, kind of.
That's her style.
Kind of was. And so they had this little sweet conversation, and he's like, hey, can I leave these books with you, like in your room? And they were a bunch of books about genealogy because he's trying to figure out where his magic came from, or a little bit more information about his magic, you know? And so she's like, yeah, the Walking Dead's probably floating around here somewhere too. It might want some company. And so he leaves the books there.
And Fleetfoot.
Yeah, and so a part of the conversation is she asks him to take care of Fleetfoot, and he's like, I'll take care of her like my own. And it was just sweet, and you can tell he still has such strong feelings for her, and he was agitated that she was being sent away, and he doesn't know why Chaol chose to do that. And Chaol's kind of beside himself too, because he's like, you know, she's never gonna come back to me. I've completely lost her. I might as well go home because I'm nowhere's gonna be good anymore, kind of thing. And then so Dorian says bye to her, and he makes this, like, not makes a comment, but in his head he's like, I don't really want to go to the ship because I know somebody else will be there to say bye to her. And so you still see his like jealousy of Chaol, which is hilarious at this point because she cannot stand his guts right now, and he's still jealous. And so you do see her getting on the ship, and like she's like 2 minutes away or 5 minutes away or whatever, and you hear Chaol say wait. So they have a little bit of a conversation, and she's like, you shouldn't have done this because I have to come back, but now I have to like murder these people because there's no way I'm going to be able to hide the fact that I didn't murder.
They're fae.
Well, and they're high court members. So they're not just like some random noble somewhere. They're high court members. There's no way to like fake their deaths. And so she's like, you shouldn't have done this. This is not the move that you should have played, but now I've got to do it. So she leaves him with a parting like
Whisper.
whisper, whatever is, and turns out it's a date. And he's like, what the hell is that? And she's like, well, when you find it out or figure it out, you'll figure out me, basically. You'll have all of my secrets. And she also says, when you figure it out, just know that I made the choice to be with you. And it didn't impact those choices because I would make that choice again. And so it was her like last fleeting, like, I loved you with everything I had. And basically your choices are what broke us apart because I loved you. And it was so painful, but I was also like, what the fuck did what'd she say? What'd she say? What'd she say? And then we found out that it was a date. And so Chaol goes and he is researching this date and he's like, well, what the fuck? How do I even do this?
He's in her room
Yeah. And so he goes and he's like,
again.
well, I've already been researching her like family history. I already have an inkling that she was a part of a noble family in Tera. So he goes back and he's like, I'm going to look through like their like archived, I took it like newspapers kind of thing of like what happened at this time frame. And so he finds a story about the royal family, like the like rulers of Tera. And the king was murdered and his nephew and his nephew's wife were murdered. And you hear that the king was murdered at the castle, and then the nephew and his wife, and the nephew was the heir to the throne, were murdered at their like country house. I don't know another word to say that, but their country house. And you see that they had a daughter named Aelin, and I'm probably mispronouncing that, but on that day, they were murdered by the king's assassins. And the next day, you also see another article of the daughter got away initially, but then they suspected that the assassin came back and killed her and threw her in a river. And Chaol, his neurons are like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. We finally like came to a conclusion about something and we're smart, all of these things. And he's like, wait a minute, that makes sense. And so then he sees Dorian's books about the royal family of Windlin. And there is a genealogical chart that goes through the women of that family. And he remembers that Celaena told him that her great grandmother was a fae, but her mother did not have the powers. And so he looked, and Celaena's mother was from Windlin. She was one of the princesses of Windlin. And so he looks back, and lo and behold, Celaena's great grandmother would have been one of the 3 sister queens of Windlin, who were full fae, and like one of them died, which is her great grandmother, Maeve, and she was made into a goddess when she died. And she was Deanna, the goddess of the hunt. And if you remember back to early on when she was at the church and like it was during this like religious ceremony
Yule
and the
Mass.
little children are coming out with like the favors of the gods, she received the favor of the goddess Deanna. And it was such a touching moment because I'm like, that was her great grandmother. That was her great grandmother. And yes, Chaol's brain is like, oh, I figured something out. I'm not completely dumb. But he just figured it out a little too late.
Yeah.
And so he just sent her back to the Fays, which is her family.
Yeah, it's going to be such a spot that she's in. But I just loved how this whole scene played out because, like, even what this part of the book was called, the Queen's Arrow, and that was what she was given at Yule Mass by Deanna, like, it just, like, came full circle. And it's just like, I can remember the first time I read this, and it's revealed that, oh, Celaena Sardothien is the lost queen, Aelin Ash River Galathinius. And it was just like chills because all of these little interactions that she's been having with people like Nehemia, the Queen Elena, just like even some of the comments that Archer was making to her, Arabin, like some of the flashback interactions that she's had with him, everyone speaks very obliquely about this. And basically, we find out that she has just been not wanting to have anything to do with her inheritance in taking this, and she's just been running from her past and her birthright and responsibility this whole time. And it's so sad.
Yeah, basically everybody who's ever had a conversation with her that could be in the know has like made an offhanded comment about it. Like Kane did, Arabin, Archer.
And she's always like, shut the fuck up, don't say anything.
Nehemia even, like she knew something. And then even, I think my point about Dorian knowing her when he was little, because I'm wondering if the royal families were close, and he actually did know a little 8-year-old Aelin before her parents got viciously murdered. And I'm just gonna point out that Celaena Sardothien is badass because she comes from badass women. Her fucking great grandmother became a goddess. That's how badass she was.
Puts a little perspective on that scene in the very beginning when Dorian was like, it felt like the stars were gazing at her, be like seen as her ancestors.
Her grandmother. But there's also, And these wouldn't be ancestors of Elena, but there's also some star like stuff with that because her tomb, the grass is up top and she is in the stars. So there's
I'm not saying
something like
anything.
she is also an ancestor of like the other side of her family. And so there's some stars from both sides, I
That's
think,
interesting.
gazing
That's
down
a
on her.
interesting observation,
Um,
Tara.
Yes. So there's a lot of stars going on and a lot of badassery from all sides of Selena's family, or should we call her Aelin now, but her family.
I loved Tara's reaction when she finished the book and she was like, so fucking good. Like, you texted me that. I was like, yes,
Well, I
exactly
felt
what I
bad
wanted.
because Sandra sent me a text of, well, and I thought it was because she finished the book. And so I was like, she's a queen. Like she's a fucking queen. And and then Sandra sent me a very like serious work text and I was like, "Oh, you weren't talking about the book. I was talking about the book." Never mind, sorry. And so I felt bad, but I'm like, she is a motherfucking queen.
It did lift my spirits. I was in a bad mood because I got like a bombshell dropped on me at work earlier today. But no, that whole little exchange with you, it made me feel better. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just gonna think about books. Books and these little fictional characters. But yes. Oh, I love
I
it.
I am enjoying like you said, the little play in like making everything like chills moments, but I
Mm.
am enjoying how she's ending the first half of the book and then the second half with like not so much a cliffhanger, but a chill moment. Like a
Mm-hmm.
holy crap, you just figured everything out. And I know we didn't figure everything out, but like she is giving you a little bit, a nugget of everything. And it's just making it
Yeah.
so good.
I
And
mean, just how that whole end scene was written, like talking about,
mhm,
oh, their turquoise blue eyes with the ring of gold around it, and it's like all of these little tiny, tiny details of what we were, sprinkled with all along, just coming together. It reminded me of how I felt when I was reading Game of Thrones, and it was like Ned Stark putting together the pieces of like, oh, Baratheons all have dark hair, the Lannisters all have golden hair, but yet all the children are gold. Like he's putting together that the children are of incest and stuff. So it was almost like, I mean, nothing like that kind of bombshell being dropped, but it was like that kind of moment. All these little details coming together. So, so, so rewarding. I loved every word of it.
yes. And I loved how she brought like some books are like, okay, I will sprinkle like 10 things in and
Mm-hmm.
then we'll come to a conclusion. And it's still a great feeling when you do figure out those 10 things, but there are so many that I caught on to a few, but the eyes, like I knew there was something, but I didn't know what, and stuff like that. So I enjoyed all of those coming together. And also, she kind of points out some of the things we haven't figured out again.
There have been a lot of things mentioned that it's
Hmm.
like, okay, she doesn't just mention a creature or, some faction of people and that's the end of it. Like there's going to be
She
something there.
builds it.
But it's so cool.
You get invested in each little piece of this, which makes for me it hard to read because then I take like 18 hours trying to figure out each little piece. And then I'm also, as I mentioned before, I'm not a good waiter. And so then I want to go and like look up like, oh, okay, so this person's name was mentioned or this was mentioned. What is this? And I can't do that because I can't ruin it for everybody else along
Stay
this
off
read
the
along. So
TikTok.
it is torture for me, but a good torture, I guess. As somebody mentioned in my comments, my masochist side is like it's a good torture.
Mass a kissed.
Hmm.
That was for you, Michael, if you're listening. Thanks for that. So, with knowing how this is kind of a completed circle in itself, figuring out who she truly is, I mean, now we have all these little thread lines that still have to work themselves out. Like, is there going to be some kind of fallout with murdering and hiding the murder of Bobby Yellowlegs? There's the flapping of the wings. What the fuck is that all about? We're going to see what happens with Duke Parrington and Roland and Kaltain. There's so much left that's going to happen. She is like, I think Celaena took a ship, right? At the end, like she's at the docks. Like
Going to
she is
Winsland.
going to a different continent altogether. No one really knows. I mean, Baba Yella like talked about how magic still may exist in other places, other continents. So it's like, is she gonna get in touch with her power again? Who knows? Like the world is like open.
And this is her family, so how are they gonna treat her? Like, this is her mother's side of the family. This might just be me and, like, my royal, like, mind, but the king is of that country. Like, he's leaving it to his nephew or something, but her mom was a princess, so is she the true rightful heir of Windbloom as well? Like, is there gonna be some play there of, like, how those courts interact because now she's very high into both?
There was Mort, who had like little scenes here and there. Mort has to be the most worthless little bronze door knocker ever. Like, thank you for being completely useless, you little shit. He's just so, ugh.
Technically, he's useful. He just chooses not to say what he knows. So he knew that, like, and that was one of the funniest scenes. Like, she like goes and tries to find this little word key, and she's like, "It's not here." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that other dude got it already."
It's like, oh,
And she's like, "You couldn't have told me that, like, at all?" And she's like, "You know what the rest of this means, don't you?" And he's kind of like, maybe." And she's like, "Can you help a sister out? Like, can you?"
you have to speak very plainly to that one. And even then, he's just like, I may help, I may not. We'll see how I'm feeling today.
And then her bringing it up with Dorian that, like, there is somebody that can help, but, like, he's probably gonna choose not to, and he's probably not gonna talk to you for a little while.
So
He may
funny.
decide that you're not worthy of talking to. It cracked me up. So, I'm interested to see if Dorian goes to visit Mort, because that would be a comical conversation.
Dorian needs a friend right now, so Mort might be his only choice at this point. We didn't see any Holland, like no funny comical scenes with Holland or Georgina. There's still a lot of mystery around Georgina. We haven't seen a lot of her. We haven't seen very much of the queen.
We did get a sense of that there was magic in Dorian's family.
Mhm.
And I'm guessing it came from his dad's side because I'm also guessing that his dad has magic and then also Roland. So I'm guessing that that's from his dad's side of the family. But could his mom, because it seems like his magic is coming in stronger than the other two, or at least from what we've seen of the other two. And so I'm wondering if his mom also potentially had magic,
Yes.
or his mom's side.
Even with Dorian having magic and it being a fact that the king has some kind of magic, like it can't be a surprise to the king if he learns that his son has magic. So it's like, what are his plans for Dorian? Even though he's outlawed magic, he's not going to kill his own son, you would think. Maybe he would. But like, what is his plan there? You know what I mean?
Well, and Dorian doesn't look like them. So at the beginning, I was thinking, like, Dorian's not a part of their family. But if he fucking has magic, then whose family is he a part of if he's not a part of theirs? And
Yeah.
which, I mean, to me, because I think we do hear that the have whatevers that,
Haviliard.
yes, the Havilards got to keep their magic, or we like get the sense that they got to keep their magic because the king is the one who is wielding the word key, right? And so that's the reason that they are the ones that have magic still, and that's the excuse that we get from Dorian. But if Dorian isn't a part of their family, does the king not think he has magic, and that's the reason he doesn't force him to wear a ring? Because he's forcing Roland to wear the ring. And does the ring tap into their magical abilities but like make it to where they can't practice? And if the king is worried about Dorian having magic, where's his ring? And so to me, that means that maybe the king knows that Dorian's not his. And so he doesn't think that he would have magic. And so he can't be tapping into that and using him. And he doesn't realize that maybe a different family also got to keep their magic. I don't know. I may be like very reachy here on trying to figure out what's going on, but
So, I mean, this pretty much wraps up our discussion of Crowns of Midnight, which left us with hello, Celaena is Aelin. So the next book is called Heir of Fire, and we already know that Aelin, Celaena, however you want to refer to her now, she manifested fire power whenever she was in that other world across the portal. So
And that was the power she had as a little child, too.
yes, that was very tumultuous, like could not control it.
Which
Ooh.
is very similar to what Dorian is experiencing with his
Yes.
magic. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, if Dorian had went over to that other place, would he have turned? Is he a fae?
Ooh.
Because he's experiencing the same, like, but he has more like the like telekinetic powers, like he moves things with his mind kind of thing. So is that a fae
Yeah.
power?
So Celaena Aelin, she did make that comment, like his power was raw and like
Mm-hmm.
kind of directionless, like
So
still moldable. So
to me, that just doesn't seem the same as the kings
yeah.
and the rest of the family. And then we also have the like little tidbit that he doesn't look like the rest of the family. And he felt like he knew her. So is he a member of the Tera royal court? Is he like her brother? And we're shipping
You're
them, and
like,
now
good
it's an
thing they didn't.
incestuous relationship going on right now. It's left a whole lot of questions where Dorian's concerned, because the answers we got with Aelin or Celaena all point to very similar things happening with Dorian. We just don't have those answers yet.
There are a lot of answers floating around out there. And likewise with Archer, she killed Archer. Archer was still indebted to this woman. Like he was still employed as a very highly sought after courtesan, too. So is he going to be missed? We don't know. Like there's still every little thing that is done, there is going to be a reaction to it in some way.
It's like
Whether
ripples.
yes, little ripples everywhere. So there's like how many other books? 6 other books. Well, one of them is a prequel story, but so 5 other books from this point forward. But there is a lot of story to be told, and I am so excited that Tera is reading this and enjoying the hell out of it. Like I'm picturing Tera in like straight up like snarky detective mode as she's like reading the books, just like notating and predicting and doing a much better job at Chaol at investigation.
Yes, he just kind of sucks. Every time that they've said that he should not be a detective, it's the truth. Like, you should not be a detective. Like, go back and be your like lordship over there, because that's probably more suited for your skill set.
Poor Chaol.
I can't even say poor Kale. I'm sorry. Kale made his choices, and they were the wrong choices, and now he has to be in the bed that he made.
I will just say that is a fair stance at this point in the story. Love you. So glad you're reading this. Anywho, that wraps up our discussion of Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas. Tune in next week for part 1 of Heir of Fire. We'll be sure to circulate the read-along schedule on the socials. So
Which I looked at, and it's freaking long. It's like 250 something, no, 350 something pages. That is this first half. So I'm going to have fun.
yay! Tara can do it. She's just like flipping through those pages. Her fingers are on fire. Those thumbs.
It is called Air of Fire, right? So like
Yes.
gonna have to have fire in there. Speed read
Oh,
that.
we're just ready to see some Fae people, some of Celaena or Aelin's people. But anyway, so come back next week. Hopefully you can catch up if you haven't already. Part 1 of Air Fire next week, and we will see you then. All right.
Bye.
Bye.